Hey, Christian caregiver. Welcome back to Christian Dementia Caregiving, the podcast where I teach Bible-believing Christians how to navigate their dementia caregiving journey with hope, as well as to find real practical help in your journey. And today's episode is a very special episode. I have a guest by the name of Angela Fairhurst from Geri-Gadgets, who is my very special guest today. And one of the reasons I really enjoyed this interview is because Angela has developed and designed a product that is very applicable for any person living with dementia to actually engage them in meaningful activities almost all the way through their dementia journey, which is a very important part of how I see engaging and being with people living with dementia. So I wanted to highlight Angela and her work in what she has done with Geri-Gadgets. So I'm inviting you to listen to today's episode. And if you have not yet signed up for one of the monthly Ask the Dementia Coach sessions, the monthly meetup that I do, our next one is this week on Thursday, September the 19th at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. The link is in the show notes for you to register for the free Ask the Dementia Coach monthly meetup, or you can message me on Facebook Messenger or on Instagram, just the word ask, A-S-K, and we will send you a link to register for the monthly meetup. This is my gift to you. This is my way of being able to connect with you and having you actually come on the podcast and ask your specific questions or your specific struggles related to your specific dementia caregiving journey. So please take me up on these monthly meetups. I love doing them. If you join on September the 19th, you will get to spend my birthday evening with me. So come hang out with me for my birthday, and hopefully I will see you in the Ask the Dementia Coach monthly meetup this coming Thursday. And now for Angela Fairhurst and Geri-Gadgets. Well, welcome back to Christian Dementia Caregiving, and I am very, very excited with my special guest today because we have a lot in common. Her name is Angela Fairhurst, and she has developed and made this wonderful gadget, for lack of a better word, called Geri-Gadgets, which Angela is going to tell you about today because it is something that can really help us as caregivers with our loved one living with dementia to help give them the sense of accomplishment and ability to continue to do things, meaningful things. It really doesn't matter which stage of their journey they're at. So Angela, welcome today. Please tell everybody a little bit about yourself and then we'll get going.
Thanks, Lizette, for having me, and thank you for the great introduction. Well, I am a television producer by trade, born and raised in Los Angeles. So I grew up here in Los Angeles and got into television production early on out of college, or in college actually, as an intern. And my journey into caregiving actually started with my mom developing dementia. My mom had early signs of dementia and I saw them happening. But my brother, who was a doctor, my older brother, I was telling him, my mom had a pacemaker put in, and I saw her reaction to anesthesia was terrifying, and she had no idea where she was. And I told my brother that my mom was losing it, and he's like, no, she's fine. Well, she never really recovered from that. When my mom went to visit my brother in New Jersey, she packed 16 pairs of pants and one shirt, and then my brother had my mom tested for dementia. My mom was actually misdiagnosed with Alzheimer's when she ended up having Lewy body dementia.
Oh, wow.
She had one medication after another, 7 as a matter of fact. And after 4 years of being home with a caregiver, she needed 36 hours of care in 24 hours. So she was put in a home, and it was a very expensive home. And I was visiting her all the time. It was up the street from where I lived. They were not taking care of her in the way that I thought was appropriate. She would have one UTI after another. I would catch those. I was always right. But the medications created terrible bad reactions. She'd go from one hospitalization after another. And then the 7th medication, she was non-responsive after 3 out of 4 days visiting. And she was losing weight, and ends up she was had lost 17 pounds in 3 weeks and was 2 liters short. They were not feeding her. She was not drinking. So anyway, she recovered from that, but not well. And we put her into another care home. And her behaviors were still not great because she was struggling to communicate. And that's when I tried to, out of desperation, and I was in complete despair and desperation, tried to find a solution. So I started to bring items from home, and I went to the toy store, and I literally brought the bucket that had the holes on the top that had the shapes. She had a clenched hand because Lewy body is the Parkinson's phrase. So her left hand was clenched, and she could not get a shape into the hole, but she was fascinated by the bucket. She had that curiosity. So the bucket idea was born, but it was too hard, and the plastic wasn't good. The edging hurt her hands and stuff. And so I started to bring other items, and fabric didn't work because that was dirty. I cut it up tons of fabric from the fabric store, but that shredded, and that wasn't a great idea. But my aha moment came when I had brought a pot holder that I cut down to size, and it appropriately, it was great because when it was scrunched like a taco, that noise was soothing to her. And the motion with the hand was soothing to her, and it calmed her down, and we could throw it back and forth and have fun and joy. And so it was also something that she could mouth, and it was washable nonetheless. So the silicone idea was born. My everything just opened up. It was, oh my God, we could have fun. It changed the game. Her behavior subsided. She stayed busy for hours on end. My moment was
like a light bulb moment. Yeah.
It was definitely changed.
Let me ask a question about your mom real quick. How old was she when you started to notice her changes, or how old was she when she was diagnosed?
Well, she was 73 when she was diagnosed, but the earlier signs were a few years before that. And Lewy body doesn't really start with the short-term memory.
Right.
It starts with, she was misplacing things. She was paying one bill more than one time and then not paying others, and then getting mad at tech support or the person on the other end of the phone. She was getting lost in her car. She was crashing at times. She definitely was getting up to stand, and her blood pressure was dropping. And that's where the pacemaker came in. So those were the earlier signs. And she was also kind of Asperger's, if you will, like she would say the wrong things, come out funny. And so those were probably happening 5 years before she was actually diagnosed.
Right. And for people who are not as familiar with the Lewy body dementia is one of those dementias that when you give certain medications to that person, it actually makes things worse. And it sounds like that is exactly what you experienced with your mom. A lot of times, and this is one of the reasons I like to do what I do, is to work on the big fancy words, right? The non-pharmacological way of helping people cope with dementia. In other words, let's not give people medication to manage behavior. Let's see if there are other ways before we go to medication to manage some of what we see. One of the reasons is because a lot of medication, has side effects that are actually going to cause exactly the stuff that we end up wanting to manage, which was exactly what happened with your mom.
One flew out of the cuckoo's nest, crazy results where she was crawling on the floor or, taking her clothes off in the middle of the hallway, and just horrible. And plus making her really lethargic and sick and very sensitive to drugs to begin with. And you give somebody, Lewy body does come with hallucinations, but very much unlike Alzheimer's. If you give an Alzheimer's patient an anti-hallucinant, they will not hallucinate, but you can't do that to a Lewy body patient. So when you give something like a Geri-Gadget bucket or Geri-Gadgets, an engagement item to a Lewy body patient, they're going to become engaged. So they stop hallucinating anyway. They become involved. So she stayed so involved with all these items that I brought her that it took her out of those hallucinations anyway. It went away. It was great. It was amazing.
Yeah, it is amazing. One of the things I often tell my family members that I work with related to hallucinations is oftentimes hallucinations bother me more than they bother the person living with the hallucination. And my rule of thumb is to say to the person who's the caregiver, try to figure out if the person with hallucinations, if they're afraid. Because if they're afraid, we want to do something about it, because I don't want anybody living in fear. But just the fact that somebody's hallucinating doesn't necessarily mean that we have to stop the hallucinations. We need to learn how to manage both as the person receiving care, but also as the caregiver, because oftentimes it bothers the caregiver more that somebody's hallucinating as opposed to the person themselves. But I love the solution that you made for your mom in that when she was meaningfully engaged in using the Geri-Gadgets, which we're going to talk about here in a second, that she would stop hallucinating. So for people who have not heard about Geri-Gadgets yet, I know that you have several different types of Geri-Gadgets. So why don't we start with wherever you'd like to start with the first one and kind of explain to people what they are and how they work.
Yeah, well, currently they're all set in silicone buckets. So the buckets are part of the play, if you will, and because silicone is great. And if you give a dementia patient a bucket, it's the all colorful. They're made specifically for adults. They're specially sized. They're high quality silicone. So everything is 100% machine washable, but in between users, they can wipe it down, and soap and water is always good. It doesn't matter whether it's hot or cold. So the washability, durability factor is there to begin with. Anyway, the 3 buckets are brightly colored. So they're made for the older eye, but they're not childlike at all. So just starting with that, they're completely different from what's available in the marketplace that way. The first bucket that I'll talk about is the fidget gadget bucket. We have 5 different manipulatives of different textures and different shapes that are good for exercising hands and arms. And they're good for any sort of fidgeting. So if there's somebody with neurodivergent issues too, this is a fabulous tool for engagement. And multiple people can use the items in one fidget gadget bucket at a time because there are 5 of them. The one is a tugger. It's made of straws and elastic. They're colorful. One person or 2 can tug on them. They can bend them flat. They can pull them down in shapes. They're really just fun. I find can have a lot of fun with that one for a while. And again, they don't even realize they're exercising their hands and arms, but can pull on that. And it's fun to do with someone as well. The second one would be that basically we call it that sensory mat, which is the Frisbee type thing that I originally made out of a pot holder, but again, it's made perfectly to size. So that's the Frisbee-like item that they can throw back and forth. They can fold like a taco. So the crunch sound is there if they want it to. So sound is also important, and they can certainly try and twirl it like on a desk if somebody has more ability between their fingers, which is really cool. Again, exercising the hands and arms and that dexterity is. We have a TheraPad, which is a triangle shaped popper, and that's great because that shape in particular fits in the hand perfectly, again, for exercising the hands and arms. And that's a familiar item, but again, a higher quality than what's on the marketplace and made for us specifically. This one's yellow, and the pop sounds are louder than what's in the marketplace as well. So the sound can be familiar to, stimulate other memories. That's kind of a great fun thing to play with. And we have an egg. It's an orange egg. It is not gooey inside. It is a familiar object, but it's actually made that's not too hard and not too soft. Perfect therapeutic item for the hand. Again, exercising the hands. So if somebody has any sort of arthritic hand, it's great. If they're fidgety, it's also great. And then if that's mouthed, they can't bite through it. We have no teeth marks going to happen on the bucket, or no scratching, no denting, no fading. They'll all wear through over time. And the last item is a click chain, which is reinforced so that the clicking sound is really fun, but it can, again, these sounds are reminiscent of other things like maybe crackling ice or walking over leaves. So that stimulates memory, but they can exercise their hands and arms. The chain is not big enough to put over their head, but they could put it on their head like a crown. They could wrap it twice around their hand like a bracelet. But again, they can click it and it can fold up in different shapes and ways to play with that. So that's the fidget gadget bucket. We have shapes bucket.
Before you keep going, I want to bring out to people the fact that one of the things that I think is amazing about Geri-Gadgets is the thing related to a lot of activities out on the market is they're really just 1 or 2 dimensional, right? It's something you can see and make or do with your hands, but doesn't necessarily, have sound or texture or all these other senses that we have. And particularly for people living with dementia towards towards the latter stage, our sensory system is still working. We can still hear, we can smell, we can taste, we can feel, but we're not tapping into those activities with people because we live in a society that is very visual focused. And so I think it's a great way to engage people in meaningful activities that they cannot destroy the task. They can do whatever they want with it. It's going to give them a result right at that moment in time, whether it be something that they can feel, something that they can hear, something that they can pull. So I applaud you for putting together something that is truly, truly sensory based, but not childish.
Yeah, and it's important because just because they have dementia, they can live well with dementia. They don't
Absolutely.
they don't they don't become children just because they get dementia. And it's about meeting someone where they are and having that respect and that dignity. And we don't actually know how the brain works enough to start treating somebody like they are a child. And we don't want to talk down to anybody. We want to engage with them, and there's nothing to stop anybody from experiencing joy and happiness. Just because they aren't who they were doesn't mean they're not there and they're not present in a different way. Just because they can't communicate like they once could, or can't articulate the way they could, or even respond in their activities the way they could, doesn't mean that they're not there. They're there till the very end. I promise you that.
Absolutely. And I'm so glad you bring that up because so many people, I can't tell you how many times I've heard, well, mom's not going to remember that I came or not. That's not what it's about, right? It's about still maintaining and engaging in connecting with the person at whatever level they are able to still connect with you. We wouldn't say the same thing about, and I know this is maybe a ridiculous example, but a child who is born with a major disability of some sort, right? We don't put them in the corner and say we're not going to engage with them because they're not going to remember us. But why do we do this with older adults? I can't tell you how many people will tell me, but my brother says that she's not going to remember his daughter coming to visit. So her granddaughter's never going to go visit her again.
Lizette, you're so right.
That's ridiculous. I mean, really, honestly, it's ridiculous. And I sincerely hope, hopefully the people who are listening to this podcast are of the mindset that, because it is for Christian believers that we are created in the image of God, and we are created in the image of God all the way through to the end. And I honestly believe that people living with dementia know who you are.
They do.
For the entire time that they're going through this journey. They may not be able to communicate that anymore, but they will know how you made them feel. They will know that you were somebody who cared for them. So I'm excited about your product.
When we get to the end of this interview, I'll tell you the story of my mom's passing, and I will promise you that you will believe that they know you to the very end.
Oh, well, thank you for sharing. Are you a Christian dementia caregiver struggling to cope? Does dementia caregiving really need to be this hard? I invite you to join our free monthly Ask the Dementia Coach meetup. Get personalized guidance and support from me, a pastor's wife, patient therapist, and Christian dementia coach. By blending evidence-based strategies with Christian principles, you can radically improve your caregiving experience. Register now for our next session of Ask the Dementia Coach. We limit registrations, so don't miss out. Sign up today.
And I second you on the main reason why I developed Geri-Gadgets and bringing them to market to everybody else was to bridge that difficult task of visiting your loved one and not having something to do or say. Because my brother told his own daughter that she didn't have to see my mother, her own grandmother, for the last 4 years of her life. He sent a message that said, oh, it's okay to put me in a home. It's okay because she won't remember. Well, that's the message saying, well, you can put me away because you have good money. You can put me somewhere comfortable and not come and visit me. What kind of message is that? That's not okay. Now, I went and visited my mom all the time, and it didn't matter that she might not remember that I was there the day before or the day before that. It didn't matter, but caregivers who work their asses off, I'm sorry, but they do work so hard, need to know that there are loved ones. If caring for their loved one need to know that they care.
Mhm.
Why wouldn't your caregiver want to know that your family member's caring? They do. It all matters. It's all cyclical.
Yeah, it is for sure.
All cogs are needed to turn the wheel. And I'm sorry, but everybody matters. Everybody matters. And you can't put some old person in a hallway and just expect them to sit there. The CDC, the average number of engagement minutes a day is 11 minutes, according to the CDC. Now, that's a sad statistic. And if you go to somewhere like the Netherlands, where they engage people on a daily basis and they have adult daycare and engagement, somebody can stay in early to moderate dementia for 95% of their life because they're engaged and only get sick for 5%. They're only in late stage for 5% of their life and can be sick for 6 months and then go. That's a beautiful thing.
It is a beautiful thing.
Look,
Absolutely.
to follow that kind of a pattern. And Geri-Gadgets are one step for that. I know they're just a product, but they are a tool of engagement, and they're an approach and an idea that we can change things based on this engagement. Now, these are high quality, and I don't want anybody putting anything toxic in their loved ones' mouths. And that's a priority here. And so you can't go buying something that's not safe for your loved one. And that's why the level of care and how well these are tested are really important. And that's why they're not cheap. They're not. But they're durable and they're going to last forever. They're going to outlive me and you. The only replacement that you have to do is because they might get lost.
Right.
But the shapes bucket, so I'm going to go on to the next one, was inspired by Tetris. I was a big lover of Tetris and Lego, but they're a lot simpler than that. But the Tetris shapes are colorful. They're 10 pieces. There's a smooth side and there's a surface with stars on them. And stars are in the logo of the head. Endless possibilities of creativity are there. If somebody's earlier stage, they can stand them up, they can lean them on each other, they can use the bucket to build on and around and about. They can create all sorts of different structures. If they're later stage, they might just lay them flat. They can color match them. They can fit them into anything. But there is absolutely no wrong answer with how the shapes go. The longer I've had them, I haven't doubled any. I've been able to repeat my patterns twice, really. So it's so much fun to just kind of create. Now, again, this can be single user. They can do it alone or they can do it with somebody, with a loved one. So I love the endless possibilities.
I love the thing I loved about the Tetris when you showed me earlier, when you and I were having a conversation another day, is for that person who's right at that in between time when they're still able to do some things. It's a great activity to do with them. You can almost play like a bingo game or not dominoes. You can just like almost anything that you can think of that you can do with a person. And what I'd love people to, one of my best experiences as I've transitioned out of working as an occupational therapist was I went on a dementia supported cruise. And one of the biggest differences between what I do now and what I did as a therapist was, as a therapist, we, by virtue of the fact that insurance is paying and you have to show quote unquote improvement, you're always correcting to try to make improvement, right? Well, that's effective up to a certain point in a dementia caregiving journey. And then after that, it becomes ineffective. What I was able to do on this cruise was take away all the societal norms of what's right or wrong and just enjoy playing a game with the people. And they were fully engaged. I was fully engaged, but there were no rules. And Geri, with the Tetris, there are no rules. There's no right or wrong. We can just enjoy the task and bring the person along with us and still laugh and make jokes and communicate and be together, but there's no societal, oh, you have to do it in this particular way.
Yeah. And honestly, it doesn't matter whether it's, if they even stick it in their mouth. Honestly, the first person I brought a Geri-Gadgets to, the shapes bucket to, did that. And it was kind of fun, but that's great. It's fun. And then the last bucket is the favorite. It's the flower bucket, because flowers are just, my uncle was a florist. I had to do flowers. Tulips are so reminiscent of, a tulip is something that raises its head up in the sun. It rises to the sun. That's what a dementia patient does with Geri-Gadgets. it rises to when it sees the colorful thing. That's what it's symbolic of. It's such a beautiful thing. And there are 4 different color tulips. There are leaves with no wire in them and a vase. And the vase has stars on the side of it, and put the flowers together in an arrangement in the traditional way. But also the vase is reinforced so that you can put the flowers in the stem in the side of the vase if you like. You can put the tulips heads together if you like. You can put them in the bucket if you like. You can put them on the side of the bucket or the side of the vase if you like, or inside of each other. It doesn't matter. Again, there's no wrong answer. Creativity is encouraged, and they're beautiful any which way you want to put them. So that's a fun one, and it's great for later stage people because they lighten up even just holding a.
Absolutely. I love that. I really, really do. I absolutely love this product. Like I told you before we got started, I've already been telling people about it because I just see, this is the OT side of me coming out, right? Because of my background, I can see the benefit of Geri-Gadgets for people living with dementia and how it can keep them meaningfully engaged for a lot longer, because it takes number one, it's not destroyable. Like, you can't destroy it. And number two, because we've taken away the right or wrong in using it, which is, therapy is always right or wrong. And this is not right or wrong. This is just enjoy doing something that is meaningful with that person and creating good memories in the journey, because that to me is what this entire journey needs to be about, is connecting with the person and continuing to create good memories.
Yep. And meeting where they are at the moment and just being in acceptance of that, because those are beautiful moments, and there's no woulda, coulda, shoulda in it. There's no, medicines are created to have somebody get better. There's no getting better in dementia. So it's about accepting them. I did the grief recovery handbook. I actually put mom to rest. I did the work and said, here, I'm going to accept my mom for who she is on the day she is. Some days are good. Some days are bad. Some days are better, but every day with a Geri-Gadget is a new day, and she would find enjoyment, and I would leave happy instead of leave crying. And also, you have to remember that they can hear you, so we don't talk about them in front of them. We don't cry in front of them. We experience the joy and acceptance in front of them, and the love and the generosity that comes from our heart as the the caring individuals that we are. So they feel that love. They feel that. And that's what Geri-Gadgets brings, that so much joy and does bridge that gap. And I think that all care home communities need to have that as an opportunity for, like, here, they don't have to know your name that day or ever. They don't have to answer a certain question. They don't have to be interrogated. With Geri-Gadgets, you can just go and enjoy the time that you spend. And it makes that easier than sitting down looking at a wilted flower.
No pun, literally no pun intended, right?
No pun intended.
So if you you mentioned at the beginning that you had a story that related. Do you want to go share that story as we wrap up today?
Yeah, I will tell you that my younger brother he's mentally unstable. Unfortunately, he suffers from some psychiatric disorder, and but when he saw my mom in her later stages, he promised that he was going to go visit her before she passed, and she chose not to eat or drink during her last 8 days, and she was okay through 7 days. But she was waiting for him, and I was visiting her every day, and hospice was nearby, and she was fine. The 8th day, she was painting. She was not fine. And to have somebody not eat or drink for 8 days is not a pretty sight to see. And the hospice nurse told me that I needed to tell my mom my brother wasn't coming because he was waiting for her. So I did. I'm a mom. Greg's not going to make it. He can't handle it, and that I want you to know that you did the best you could, that he loves you, that we all love you, but it's really okay that you can go now. And so I'm going to leave their room too, because I know she didn't want to go in front of me. And I gave her that message, and I just left the room, and she died 7 minutes later. So she was there. She hears you. They hear you.
They do.
So that's my, I know they were there till the very end, and she wasn't going to let go until she knew she was waiting for him for 8 days.
Well, what a blessing you gave your mom, though. I want you to remember that, Angela. You gave your mom a blessing by having that conversation, because a lot of people don't want to have that conversation with the person they love. So thank you so much for sharing sharing that with us today. I know that is a hard and difficult conversation, to have, but also a difficult conversation to revisit. So thank you so much for being so open and transparent and sharing that with people. Now, for people who really are interested in Geri-Gadgets, how can they find them?
Oh, please go to my website. Our website at the moment, we have it's www.geri-gadgets.com, GERI-gadgets, GADGETS.com. If you actually go to Geri-Gadgets without a dash.com, it will take you to the website. They are ordered through SNS Worldwide right now. They have an exclusive, but that will change and we will be more widely distributed later. But if you do order, they're on the order page, they'll link you to their website. Please make sure you use the discount code because you will get a discount. The codes, the range to about up to 30% off. So that's a big significant difference. Do try and buy the set because that's even a further discount. And that's the greatest way to do it. We do have more product coming in the pipeline in the future, and we will be more widely distributed. And if there are care home community trying to buy, they're available through direct supply, which is the invoicing agent, that people will be aware of that as well. So I thank you for your time and your attention, Lizette, and your support for Geri-Gadgets. And I really do hope we can make a difference.
Oh, for sure. So where do people get the promo code?
Oh, it's on the left side corner of the website. When you go to SNS Worldwide, it's always up there. It says redeem. So it'll always be there.
Okay, awesome. Well, thank you so much. I really, really have enjoyed this conversation. I'm excited to bring this particular product to people because I really do think that this is one of the missing pieces we have. And I'm very excited to have met you, Angela. I really enjoy you tremendously. And do let me know what else I can do to support you in the future.
Likewise, Lizette, I appreciate you so very much.
All right, blessings. Bye.
Bye.